So let's talk about TV and radio.
Okay.
That sort of seemed to be the next sort of direction in your path. How did you get involved?
I've always, like I said, I always wanted to be in TV and radio, but when I became an activist, I felt like that world didn't want me to be in TV and radio. They thought it was a sellout. They thought, oh, this kid was trying to do stuff good for other people, and now he's so self-consumed and stuff. That was the feedback I was getting. So
Pick a lane.
Pick a lane.
You
Pick
know,
a lane, kid.
stay there. Right.
You can't tell a joke and then fight for rights.
Right.
You know? We're not all Lady Gaga. You know. So I chose a lane, not Elaine. We won't talk about her. But I chose a lane, and my lane was comedy and entertainment. I found in politics to be much more effective as an entertainer, as a producer, as a creator than I ever could be as a politician, as a congressman or as a senator. You know? And that was the truth then. I'm not sure about it now. I'm out of the political world, but and that's what I set out to do. So I changed my name and I went to broadcasting school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what school was that?
Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Which is where we're here right now. So you started out as a student here.
Yep.
And what happened then?
Started as a student. I completely swiped everything I had done before. Came here with a clean slate. Didn't tell anybody about my past. Came here as a student. Worked my way up just like anybody else. Got an internship at SiriusXM Radio as a news person. And then halfway through my second internship, I got the opportunity to be on the air. And that was it. Like magic. Vinnie Politan is a wonderful man, wonderful friend of mine. He's great. You need people in this business to look out for you. And Vinnie and I are a great example of someone who we disagree on a lot of things. The whole show was he's a little bit on the conservative side. And that's what the show and that's what entertainment is about. That no matter where you lie politically or socially sometimes, that you know, we're all broadcasters, we're all entertainers, you know, and that at the end of the day, when the show's over, we go home. You don't have to take it home with you. And I certainly don't do that. I certainly don't do that.
Did you have any mentors or role models in the industry that you either looked toward or had any direct
Dead
interaction?
or alive?
Both.
Paul Lynde.
Paul Lynde, okay.
Paul Lynde. Paul Lynde, if you don't know,
Famous.
was Uncle Arthur on Bewitched.
Yes. One of my favorite characters, by the way.
Oh my goodness. What are you doing? Paul Lynde was an openly gay man in the 60s, and as openly gay as you could possibly be. I mean, he did a show called I've Got a Secret, and it was hysterical. In black and white TV, the man would go on television, it would be Paul Lynde, and he would go, I'm Paul Lynde, and I've got a secret. It was hysterical. I mean, to be openly gay back then, and for me, that and Frank DeCaro, who used to be on The Daily Show I worked with, they taught me that, you know, don't hide the gay. It's more comforting to straight people instead of hiding it. I think it's a very funny thing. It's funny being gay. It's funny being black.
Right.
You know? Sorry, I have to gesture.
Right, exactly.
In case you didn't know he was black. It's funny.
I am black.
But it's very, very funny.
Right,
And I
right.
think if you embrace it and you wear it on your shoulder, then it doesn't become the boogeyman anymore.
You live it, but you don't take it so seriously that you know people have power over the
what's
situation.
the big deal? What are people so afraid of? You know, that's why my humor, my lectures, everything is about taking away the gender of it. Not thinking, approaching something and not saying, well, if I do that, oh, that's a little this or that's a little... No, just be open-minded, embrace it, and live your life. It's too short.
Right. So you've had this whirlwind career and development. You've met some of the world's most influential people, like you mentioned, the Clintons, Martina Navratilova, like all these people, the Gores.
Lieberman.
You know, let's talk about the challenges. What were the stumbling blocks on the way? I know that you had a very serious bout with alcoholism. Let's get to know that side. What was going on there?
Even at my most successful points, I was the worst. I was an alcoholic. I was a blackout drunk. I was 16 years old, and the truth is I was very young, and people took me very seriously, and I only had adults around me, and no one would tell me no. It's that classic cliche child star thing, but I wasn't a star necessarily. I just think nobody said no. There was no reason for me to stop. And there was a lot of pressure, and it was my way out. And I became a ridiculous alcoholic. There was no issue with money, so it was just spend, spend, spend. And people love that about you. When you're in the news and you can buy people drinks, and no matter how old I was, I guarantee I was 16 years old and I was going to clubs, people would ask me for my fake ID in order so they could let me in. Amaretto and orange juice, by the way, like a lady, okay? It smelled like my mom. It smelled like my mom. I don't want to say that because she wasn't a drinker. She wasn't a drinker.
Right.
Nobody was a drinker but me. But I remember the smell of it, and it was what my mom drank. So I took a sip and I couldn't stop, and I kept drinking. When I was 12 years old, I couldn't stop, and I threw up on the living room floor. And from that point on, it was a seed. I couldn't only have one. It was that way for years. I was an abusive, physically abusive, verbally abusive, horrible, horrific person for years and years and years and years and years. It's weird to talk about yourself, but I think because of the smart, or the smart, because of the smart, because of the intelligence, or because of my studies and all that stuff, they thought that some brilliance comes with a little insanity. But I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think that's an excuse. So they kind of passed it off. And I was always a little wacky, so I mean, who could tell if I was drunk? I mean, I was just kind of all the time. I was sitting at the end of the road at a bar, a straight Irish pub, and the bartender called me over and said, "Hey, Michael, there's another gay guy here." He had heard there was another gay guy at the bar, so he said, "Michael, you should mate them." I was like, "Oh, of course, because all gay men will get along." And I looked at him; he was pretty cute. So I approached him. I said, "Do you want to dance?" And I said, "I'm Michael Billy." And he said, "So?" And I loved him. And that was it. That was it. I had me sold. He was great. We danced that night, and we kept in contact and went on dates, and it's been great ever since. 5 years. We split up for a little while because of the drinking.
Tell me about that.
He was the reason I stopped drinking. The only reason I stopped drinking. He made me realize. 2.5 years in, I suppose, 2.5 years in, he said, "Well, you're either going to choose drinking or me, because I can't do this anymore." He was holding my head when I threw up. He was dressing me. He was clothing me, bathing me. I was comatose. And he didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore, so he left. And I said to him, "I'm choosing the drinks. Bye." And a month later, on Easter Sunday, is when I realized this had been going on for so many years. And I felt so unhealthy, and I just wanted to change. So I got in the car that Monday morning, and I put the keys in the ignition, and I drove myself and admitted myself into a rehab. At that point, he made me he made it okay to not spend the afternoon obliterated. I could actually hold a conversation and have a good time without being completely gone. What does he mean to me now? What does he mean to me now? Jeez. It is very nice to go out and have a Cinderella night in New York and talk to people at CNN and live this wonderful life, and then be able to come home and cook and make chicken and make vegetables and live a normal life. It's wonderful to have him. He's nowhere near as obsessed with fame as as I am in entertainment. He's just a normal, good normal person. He doesn't want to be in front of the camera, and I need that.
Tell me about In the Life.
It was a good show. It was a good documentary series. That was a big break for me. In the Life is a fantastic program. It's the longest gay and lesbian program that's ever been on the air in the United States. Rosie O'Donnell had hosted it before I did. A slew of celebrities had hosted it before I did, and then they decided they wanted a non-celebrity, so they chose me. They wanted somebody normal, and so I went for the audition. I got it, and it was brilliant. I had a really, really wonderful time.